Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Apples and Genos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Nate Groot-Niblink, and I will be your host. And I've got my guy Blake here with me. Blake, how are we doing today?
We are doing very well, and thank you for asking. Looking forward to the chat tonight. Let's see what's going on.
Well, what's going on is we're going to be talking about your standard hot and cold players. We've got a big list here. We'll try to get through for people. I know a lot of these guys have been getting lots of questions on, and been telling a few people, hang on for Sunday night, and we'll see what we can talk about. We already got a comment here from David. Are you a Broncos fan? He's looking at my hat here.
Let's
Yes,
ride.
I am a Broncos fan, unfortunately, this year and the past number of years. But you know what? We won a championship back in 2015, and that's all I need to remember. It's a lot better than my Leafs. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
it wasn't that long ago, my man. That's totally valid.
All right. Before we get into things, make sure you check out the Apples and Genos Discord server. We have a thriving community, hundreds of like-minded fantasy managers who you can bounce ideas off of, as well as get the latest news and content alerts. If you're looking for help with those crucial waiver wire pickups each week, you can check out the Patreon, where for $5 a month you get a weekly article detailing all of the best pickups for the upcoming week, including long-term plays. All these links in the show description. Come check it out. Come join the Discord. Come join the Patreon if you need some help with your waiver wires. And let's get into it. Now, I think I've got a bit of a mic issue going on here, so I think I'm going to try to fix that for a second. Blake, you want to dive in on Tage Thompson while I take 2 seconds to plug in and plug out my mic?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was kind of enjoying it. It's like a little. It's kind of sexier. You know what I mean? It's a little baritone there, a little Barry White. The slithery sounds of a female snake. That's a Simpsons reference. All right, yeah, let's get into it. Tage Thompson is the first player that we're going to talk about today, and man, this guy's just going off the wall here. He's got 12 points in his last 5 games. He's fourth in shots per 60. He's 33rd in individual scoring chances per 60, just over the last 5 games, which is excellent. On the season so far, he's got 79 IPP, 79% IPP, which seems a little bit high. He had 69% last year, giggity. His shooting percentage is in line with last year, but his on-ice shooting percentage is high, right? He's got 14.6% versus 12% last year. And yeah, how you doing? You good?
I think I'm back.
Yeah, you're
How do I
back,
sound
maybe.
now?
Oh,
I'm
you
back.
sound.
All right.
Yeah, we lost a little bit of ambiance, but that's fine.
Yeah, so Thompson, like you said, some stuff is a little high here, but also the shots and the individual scoring chances rates are up pretty significantly from last year. So he's actually producing more in those advanced stats I like to look at. I don't know if you can call shots an advanced stat, but usage, like in terms of his actual time on ice, pretty much the same as last year. So it seems like they're kind of deploying him the same. So definitely, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's going to put up 12 points every 5 games or anything. But yeah, big numbers, taking a step from last year in terms of the underlying stats. I really like what I'm seeing from Tage Thompson. I'm curious, if you had to put a number on it, what would be like your point pace projection for the rest of the season if you had to put an estimate on it right now? What are you feeling about Tage Thompson?
For Tage, I like point per game on this guy. I think 80 is within reach. He's just not a player I was super familiar with last year. I've watched a little bit this year, and I mean, he's been lights out, obviously. So I think, to me, he looks like he could be point per game player. More goals than assists, I think, would be nice. But when you see a player like this, Nate, like who's a lot of his stats aren't that different. But he's getting more points. What do you attribute that to? Like, I know we have a couple players like that, maybe even better examples than Tage Thompson, but they're doing the same thing, but they're just getting more points. What do you is that luck or what is it?
Yeah, a little bit of luck for sure. Like we said, the IPP seems a little bit high, maybe 10% high this year.
Yeah.
The on ice shooting percentage also a little bit high. So a little bit of difference there as well. But Yeah, overall, I think that Thompson is just kind of legitimately taking a step. You see that kind of in the underlying numbers, I think. Um, so to me, I really do think that there's something to this with Tage Thompson, and he was, um, floating in that 65 to 70 point pace range last year. This year, yeah, point per game. I'd be in line for that. I don't know if I would. If that'd be like the most probable outcome, because it could just be a hot start, and it's pretty hard to be a point per game player in this league. But yeah, I definitely think that over 70 is what I'm expecting from Thompson, and definitely point per game well within reach for him at this point.
Yeah, he looks good, and Buffalo just they're doing very much big surprise this year. Was not expecting that from them.
Big surprise for sure. And sticking with Buffalo, we got to talk about Rasmus Dahlin. Last 5 games, 2 goals, 6 points. He's only got 1 game on the entire season that he hasn't registered a point in. Just remarkable stuff for a defenseman, for any player, really. In those last 5 games, fourth among all defensemen in shots per 60, fifth in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. And to top it all off, he's been skating 27 plus minutes a night. So he's getting these incredible rate stats, and he's multiplying them by big minutes as well. So he's really obviously churning out the stats in that way. He's just completely blowing his previous rates out of the water. Shots per 60, individual Corsi 4 per 60, individual scoring chances 4 per 60. Even the on ice stats, his on ice Corsi 4, his on ice scoring chances 4. Just everything has taken a massive leap so far this year for Dahlin. He's doing it at even strength too. It's not like it's just like a power play bender or anything like that. He's getting more ice time. He's up to an average of 25 minutes 53 seconds on the year versus 24 minutes and 1 second last year. Like, I don't know. I don't know if this is really something that he can sustain for a full year playing at this unbelievable pace, but like, the level of play, and it's borne out in all the advanced stats, the level of play from Rasmus Dahlin has just gone through the roof this year, and he's looking like a legitimate top 10 defenseman, and maybe top 5 defenseman as a ceiling. And, like, this is a former number 1 overall pick, right? Like,
Yep.
this is what we were hoping for from Rasmus Dahlin. So maybe the lights just turned on here. It's a little bit what it looks like. How are you feeling about Dahlin?
Yeah, I've seen a couple games with Buffalo, and along with the stats that you mentioned, he just looks good. He's dominant out there. So that is really nice to see, especially you have a number 1 overall pick. The thing I loved about Dahlin going into the season is, we were thinking like 50 points, probably 50 points, and really good periffs, right? Good hits, good blocks. But I mean, is he going to be 60 points? 60 points with good hits and blocks? Like, now we're talking, you know what I mean? Like you said, you're looking at a legit like top 10 defenseman, certainly even maybe even more valuable in Bangers Cats leagues. But yeah, it's the goal scoring too. That's been a surprise for me. I mean, just looking at his shooting percentage right now, yeah, like he's almost at 16%, where last year is a great season for him. He had was shooting at 7.6%. So lots of things going right. More power play time though this year, more time on ice. So it just seems like a perfect storm with this player, and I love to see it. I like what Buffalo's doing a lot. Tage Thompson and Dahlin in particular.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you on Dahlin. If he can keep this up, and it's been 12 games I think into Buffalo season at this point, so we've got lots of road left ahead of us. But if he can keep this up, then definitely like even a 70-point season isn't out of the question for Dahlin. I don't know if that's his most likely outcome, like I was saying with Thompson with the point per game. But it's not out of the question the way he's been playing. So if he can keep it up, that's definitely a possibility. One more thing on Dahlin. He is currently listed as day-to-day. He missed the game against the Lightning. I don't have an update beyond that. So if you're looking at trading for him, maybe at least get a little bit of clarity around the injury before you go out and do anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know how you could get this guy at a trade.
Yeah.
He's bombing right now. I mean, maybe if he's injured, you can get him, but I don't know. Just enjoy this. Just enjoy the production.
Yep, I'm with you there. Number 3, Hampus Lindholm, who's rocking 8 points in his last 5 games. Had a 4-point game in there. He's only 67th in shots per 60 among defensemen, so definitely that's a little bit of a red flag there. He's not significantly outperforming his 10 games at the end of last year that he had with Boston in really any of the advanced metrics that I'm looking at, and that's despite now having top power play usage. So the IPP this year so far, 48%. Career, he's been more of a 35 to 40% guy. He's shooting 18%, normally a 6% guy. And on ice shooting percentage is 15.2%. He was 10.9% with Boston last year. So to me, really, the only way he holds fantasy relevance is if he can somehow hang on to that top power play even after McAvoy comes back. If they want to, kind of ease McAvoy into a full role and they don't want him to get every minute right out of the gate, then maybe they let Lindholm run with the top power play since he's been effective there. That's kind of the only way I can really see this hanging on for Lindholm, where he continues to be fantasy relevant for a long time. How are you feeling about Lindholm here? Do you think he's more than just a guy until McAvoy gets back, or am I on the mark with this guy?
Nah, he's not the guy. I don't think so anyway. But I hope he doesn't keep that PP1 spot, because I got McAvoy in a bunch of spots, so I need him to produce. So Hampus Lindholm, don't steal my shine, please. But yeah, you hit it right on the head. He's getting way more power play time, and he's getting more time on ice, right? And he's getting time on ice with good players. So he's filling in admirably, and I'm happy for the guy. His previous season high was, what is it, 34 points, looks like. So that's not, he's on pace to blow that out of the water, right? But I just don't see it happening. He's going to lose that time, and his time on ice is going to go down too. Plus, he doesn't bring a lot peripherally, not as much as other guys. So while I am happy to see it, this is his points and his stats are bolstered by a 4-point game, right? So we'll see. I'm interested for sure. But when McAvoy comes back, I think the party's over.
Yep. With you on that. Let's move on. Zach Hyman. Before last night's game, Saturday night's game, if you're listening to this on Monday, before that game, he rang off a 6-game point streak. He had 5 goals and 4 assists in those 6 games. His deployment in terms of time on ice, consistent with last year. The IPP, shooting percentage, all in line. On ice shooting percentage up to 13% from 10% last year. So you could say that's a little bit higher than you'd expect to sustain over the full year. But he is firing almost 50% more shots and individual scoring chances for, and both the on-ice numbers that I look at, Corsi for and scoring chances for per 60, both of those taking a big leap as well. Hyman seems to be a fixture in that top 6 and on the power play. I'm pretty bullish on Hyman. This might just be kind of, second year in Edmonton, kind of getting a little bit more comfortable. He knows McDavid a little better. McDavid knows him a little better. They know where each other will be, and he's just kind of settling in now. I don't know if I believe that he's going to shoot this much all season long, but definitely if you have Hyman, you can't move off him for the time being until he cools down, for sure. Honestly, looking at his numbers, he could be a point per game guy if this keeps up. I don't know how likely that is, but really, just the shots and the scoring chances and the better 5v5 play, it's all there for Hyman right now, and I'm pretty bullish on him rest of the season.
Yeah, I like that. It's just, it seems like I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but they know what they're doing offensively in Edmonton. It's very clear. It's very fluid what they do, and this guy's a part of it. So he's going to get points, and he's playing with Connor McDavid, and they have some decent chemistry. And so, I like what I'm seeing from this guy. He can, I always look at the peripherals because I'm in a lot of bangers and cats leagues, and he can bring a little bit of that too for a forward. So, I like what I'm seeing, and obviously the shots total is much different, right? He's shooting a lot more. Mm-hmm. Even if that comes down, I still think, we're looking at a 65 point player, which is great with decent peripherals, and probably some decent power play points as well, in that second power play. Yep. So yeah, he's great. Edmonton is just a fun team to watch. And, this year I picked Matthews over Draisaitl on 3 teams. I had second pick in 3 teams, and it's killing me right now. Oh my God. Draisaitl's just going nuts. So that's fine.
It happens. It happens to the best of us, that's for sure. Yeah, it seems like, just to note on the power play, it seems like they're
Yeah.
doing that thing that they did last year where kind of Evander Kane and Zach Hyman kind of split off, almost 50-50 on the power play. And then it's Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, and McDavid. They just stay out there the whole time, those three guys. And then it's just Hyman and Kane kind of filling in. One of them starts and one of them finishes. It seems to be the way it's going right now. They did that a fair bit last year, if I remember correctly, as well. So I think that's probably it's kind of like a 50% split for both those guys, and that's
Mhm.
the way I'd kind of project it moving forward if I had to. All right, let's keep going. Andrei Kuzmenko, this guy had a big bust out game last week. I was cautious on Kuzmenko in draft season. He opened with 5 or more individual scoring chances for in 3 straight games, and I was sold. Like, I was hooked on the guy. I was like, yeah, if you can do that in your first 3 games in the league, I'm definitely into that. He got dropped a lot. He had a 4-game pointless stretch, but his last 5 games, he's got 9 points, including that 4-point game. He's got less than 3 shots or 3 individual scoring chances for in just 3 out of his games this year. So he's been really consistent as well, which is really nice to see. He's on the Pettersson line, which I would call the top line right now, and on the top power play unit as well. He's been there pretty much all season. On the season, he's rocking 10.9 shots per 60, clearing that 10 shots per 60 kind of threshold that I really like to see. And he's got 13.7 individual scoring chances for per 60. And that kind of ratio where the individual scoring chances for is above the shots, that kind of ratio makes me think he can be a pretty efficient shooter once things start to fall his way, like 15% plus. So that's really exciting because he's putting out quite a lot of shots. And if he can be an efficient shooter on top of that, then you're looking at a recipe for a guy who can score, 30, 35, 40 goals if everything else breaks right for him. So really excited about that. I think he's got 70-plus point potential on the season. I won't obviously lock it in stone yet, but this guy needs to be rostered in every league that's worth its salt at this point. Anything more to add on Kuzmenko? I think he's taken off right now, and everybody's got to hop on this train.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've covered this guy before, and I agree with everything you said. It's a really good take. I did watch the game where he broke out. It was 8-5 Canucks win, and yeah, he's his offensive acumen is elite for sure. He's got to get used to the game over here, I think, and obviously with his teammates. But he definitely has some chemistry with Pettersson and Mikheyev, I think he's playing with. And plus, he looks good on the power play. Like, he's just being net front, and they're just finding him. Like, Miller found him the other night too. Same kind of play, just a bang play where he has a stick on the ice and they're basically passing the puck off his stick. Like, he's just in a position and he's getting good passes from good players. I think he definitely going to get some good points and definitely power play points, and then all the underlying stats. Yeah, he looks good, and I think there's a lot of room to grow because he could get more minutes, right? And he should probably.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with all that. Let's move on. We got to talk about Erik Karlsson for a second. I think just been lighting the world on fire for quite some time right now. Let's get your take first here, Blake. What are you thinking about Erik Karlsson these days and what he's been able to put on record so far this season?
Well, I mean, he's been amazing. Like, what do you say about the guy? He's I think he's 5th in the league, or he's tied for 4th in league scorings with 19 points in 14 games, but that includes 10 goals. That's crazy. I don't think anyone saw this coming. I mean, I know you've got some of the statistics here. I didn't do too deep of a dive in here with Karlsson, but I just wanted to highlight him and just say, well, like, what an amazing season this guy's having in his 32nd, he's 32 years old, right? So coming off a couple injury riddled seasons, actually a lot of them. Now I'm looking at his last 4 seasons. Before this, he played in between 50 and 60 games. So he's just come out of the gates firing, and there's no one there to, pushing him. Like, Brent Burns was there for those seasons, obviously. So I think the departure of Burns and a healthy Karlsson, we're getting maybe what San Jose thought they were going to get when they traded for him, because it just never really materialized there in San Jose. But I love to see it. I mean, he already has as many goals this year as he did all of last year in 50 games, and he looks good doing it.
Yep.
So
he looks
I don't
terrific. Absolutely agree. He looks terrific. The last 5 games, I'm just looking at his game log here.
Yeah.
He's taken 7, 5, 5, 6, and 7 shots in his last 5 games. This is a defenseman we're talking about. And those are good shots too. 5
Mhm.
individual scoring chances, 4, then 5, then 4, then 5, then 2. Like that
What?
number would be elite from a forward, and we're talking about a defenseman doing this. So this is really impressive stuff. He's getting crazy amounts of minutes. The last 2 games, he's played over 31 minutes in both games. So he's getting a crazy amount of minutes. He's putting up a crazy amount of shots. Um, I will say, like, obviously there's some unsustainability in here. I don't think he's going to be like, what's he pacing for now? It's got to be like 140 or something
Yeah.
points. So
111. Yeah.
is
111
it?
points.
Okay,
Crazy.
yeah. So he's not going to do that. The IPP is out of this world, 70%. Even in the height of his Ottawa days, he was in like the 60 to 63 range there. So even if you think he's all the way back to that, you got to knock him down 7 to 10% on the IPP. Shooting percentage is pretty crazy, 22%.
Sky high. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to come down. But with that, that kind of takes down the IPP to where it should be, as like you don't need to double count that, I guess is what I'm saying, right? As when the shooting percentage kind of normalizes, the IPP will naturally normalize there as well. It's not that both of those are going to take away from his totals. The on ice shooting percentage is also pretty high, but honestly, that's probably just him shooting the lights out. So once that
Mhm.
comes down, really, I think it's just him shooting so efficiently right now. And part of that is like the individual scoring chances. Like he's being very, very effective in getting to high danger chances and putting those on net. So, yeah, there's nothing in this profile to me that suggests he's not an elite fantasy asset to hold the rest of the season. Definitely, there is still the injury risk. This is a guy who's had his fair number of surgeries, and you're plenty welcome to question the integrity of all of those lower body parts that he's had worked on over the years. So I'm not saying that this is 82 games of this is what we're going to get by any stretch, but definitely he's playing at a level that we haven't seen since his Ottawa days. I will say that pretty comfortably at this point. And yeah, I don't think it's impossible to say that he could be even a point per game in like kind of a best case scenario. But definitely, I think like 70 plus point pace is well within the cards. That would be my projection at this point, 70 to 75 point pace. I just have no reason to not believe that he can continue to do this. It's not like this is a short stretch at this point, 14 games that he's put
Yep.
this up over. It's improving the last 5 games. Like the last 5 games have been his best 5 games. So it's not like it's he had like a few hot games at the beginning and then it started to peter off. Like he's improving. So yeah, I'm all about it. I think yeah, you can mitigate your risk by trading away. Like if you can trade off to Cale Makar, who's only got 1 goal in the season, and you can do something like that, then sure.
Oh
Go
my
ahead
goodness. Carlson
and
for Cale Makar. Oh my.
that'd be an
He should be
interesting one.
yeah. He's third overall from NHL.com, I think, on the draft. That
Yeah.
would be quite a steal there. I think Carlson you can get him in the 170s.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I have seen some trades floating around of people like packaging another forward to go with Carlson to get Makar, and I think that's actually a pretty smart way to play it. Then you kind of mitigate your risk with Carlson, any injury risk. You move over to Makar, you get that kind of established young elite asset on an elite team. So I'd be pretty happy to make that move, but yeah, overall, I've got no complaints with Carlson in terms of his underlying numbers. Everything looks like he's doing it. And another reason why he's doing it, 25 minutes on average. Like I said, 31 minutes plus in both the last 2 games. So he's been playing more than he has at any point during his time with San Jose as well. So that's another reason he could have this kind of monster season that we're seeing so far.
It sounds like him and Timo Meyer are the only two guys shooting on the team right there.
Yeah,
But
pretty
between
much.
them, they got like 20 shots a game. Pretty
Yeah,
nice.
pretty much.
Yeah.
All
Sweet.
right, let's move on to the performing poorly section here. We've got to talk about Teuvo Teravainen. So I grabbed these stats before the game today, so take that for what it's worth. Just 5 points, all assists in the 11 games before today. Still on the Aho line, but got bumped off power play 1 for Stefan Nason. Nason did get a power play goal I saw in the game today, so I don't think that Teravainen's going to be stealing that particular job back anytime soon, unfortunately. All the underlying stats with Teravainen are within spitting distance of his career averages, so I don't think there's like something here that we're really missing in terms of he's like falling off or aging out or anything crazy like that. Seems like he's pretty much in line with what he's done throughout his career. 71% IPP is strong, but only 6.1% on ice shooting percentage, and he has not scored on the season, 0% shooting percentage. So for me, in summary, basically, not having that power play 1 really takes away the ceiling. So that's what really does it for me with Teravainen. But I'm not worried like that he's forgotten how to play hockey or anything. He's still the same guy underneath with the underlying stats. It's really just about, can he get back on that top power play to really kind of have the ceiling that we are hoping for him with, 65 to 75 points is, I think, what most people expected from Teravainen, playing with Aho, playing on the top power play with Svechnikov and all these guys. In the last 2 games now, like he had the 2 assists, but he didn't have a shot on goal. And I'm seeing today, looks like he didn't have a shot on goal again today against Toronto,
Donuts.
which is really rough. So maybe he's trending down. Maybe it's maybe it's time to move on from Teravainen. But if you do move on from Teravainen, I would say he'd be at the top of my watch list for sure, because if he gets back on that top power play unit, then I do expect that it's going to be pretty much back to normal between him and Aho and all these guys that he's played with for a while at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have much more to add on Toivo Teravainen. I picked him up in a lot of spots and actually did drop him in one of my teams. But it's just power play, really. Like, he had, what did he have last year for power play points? Like 31 power play points. That's excellent. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I was excited to draft him where I did, which was usually, I think it was around like 120 to 140 area. You could kind of get him there, and it just felt like you're getting a steal. But I was saying to you, before we went on air here, like, if you're not watching the games and you look at the box score, you're like, was this guy even on the ice? Like, what? Yeah. It's pretty rough, especially with the the lack of shooting, and and I think when you're drafting, you're very optimistic, right? You're like, yeah, he could surpass 65 points. He could really do something here. He's a first power play, but I just don't think it's going to happen this year. I mean, yeah, we're 12 games in, so I do think 60 points is still reachable for him, but that might be, like you said, unless he's back on power play 1, 55, 60 points might be ceiling at this point.
Yeah. I tend to think about it, I guess, more in terms of paces given their current deployment, right? So in his current deployment, I'm thinking Teravainen is probably like a 50-point pace guy. And when the power play comes back, then that instantly shoots his point pace back up into that like 65-point range for me. So that's kind of how I'm viewing it. Moving forward. So yeah, if Teravainen has a bad schedule or something, he's definitely on the bubble at this point. I'm not going to hang on to him just because he has that potential and hope that Rod Brind'Amour sees the light of day with this Stefan Nason stuff on the top power play. I'm done waiting on coaches to make what I consider to be logical decisions. So I'll move on from Teravainen if I have to. But I would keep a close eye on him because he does have that potential if he gets back up there.
And go pick up Stefan Noesen right now. Just do it, right? You're going to like what you see.
Power play goal today.
Yeah, there you go. Sweet. You're already ahead.
All right, let's keep rolling. Jonathan Huberdeau. This is a big one. No points in his last 4 games. Really what stuck out to me the most when I started looking at his stats here, he's under 17 minutes average time on ice, which is just bizarre. Like this is a guy that they gave up Matthew Tkachuk for, right? They went out to get Huberdeau. They signed him to this massive deal. And now they're just going to play him less than 17 minutes a night. Like that's really the whole plan here. I just can't believe that that's going to be the case long term. But it's what they're doing right now. So yeah, definitely there's some signs under the hood that we should see some positive regression. You know, the 50% IPP, typically Huberdeau is 70 plus percent IPP guy. Right now, 5.3% shooting percentage. He's more typically 13 to 16% range. 8.9% on ice shooting percentage. He's been in the 12 to 14% range, obviously on good Florida teams, but still pretty big difference between that and what he's got right now. He is also shooting less, like less per 60, like on a per minute basis, less individual scoring chances for per 60. So he's not doing it individually either, which is concerning. And then obviously the average time on ice. So you get a kind of double whammy effect where he's shooting less per minute and the time on ice is down. So the overall effect is magnified that way. The good news, I guess, that I can give about Huberdeau, the Corsi 4 per 60 and the scoring chances 4 per 60, they're not all actually all that far off his Florida numbers from a year ago. So even though he's not doing it, Calgary kind of as a team around him is doing it when he's on the ice. So maybe he's just kind of converting a bit more of that into shot assists or whatever you want to call them, right? He's passing the puck into these areas and generating these shot attempts for his teammates rather than for himself. That's a possibility. I wouldn't rule that out. So really, for me, the thing with Huberdeau, I'm really only concerned about the time on ice in the end of it. Definitely, I knocked him down in my projections. I didn't think he was going to have the same environment. I always kind of knock guys down unless they really go to a clearly better situation. And to me, this was a clearly worse situation for Huberdeau going to Calgary. So, yeah, I had knocked him down in my initial projections. Now I have to knock him down a little bit more just based on the time on ice, I think. What are you doing with Huberdeau, Blake?
It's rough. But one thing, when I hear, like I've been hearing these rumblings too, or just on Twitter and just in a lot of the groups I'm in, when so many people are talking about how bad a guy is doing, a guy like Huberdeau, that means you buy low. All right. That means he's an amazing buy low. All right. You're only 10 games in. Clearly he's not going to do what he did last year, but it's hard to go to another team. It's hard to, whether it's even a good situation team, you still have to have chemistry. You still have to figure it out. And, his line mates are not doing well either. Elias Lindholm and Toffoli, both guys that were expected to, perform a lot better, and they haven't so far. So the ice time is a concern, but you have to think when they go out and they spend the kind of money they did on Huberdeau, make the kind of changes they did for their team, those minutes are going to come back, right? And when they do, the shots will probably come back, the assists will come back. 115 points, I don't think so, but I still think 80 to 90 points were probably pretty good with some and Huberdeau hits too. So we could. I think expectation killed Huberdeau a little bit. Like He was being drafted in the first round or end of the first round, beginning of second. It's like I didn't like him there at all. But still we're looking at like a 90-point player probably with decent peripherals. That's a good season, and it's going to come back. He's a buy low. Go find out who has him. See if they're getting squirrely. Send some garbage their way and pick up Huberdeau. All right.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, basically, I would say at a 16 minutes and 52 seconds average time on ice level, he's probably like a 75 to 80 point player for me. If he gets back up to that range where he's 18 and a half, 19, then yeah, now I'm talking back more like my original projection, which was around 90 points, if I remember correctly. So that's what I do with Huberdeau. Let's keep it rolling. We got to talk about Calen Addison again. Somehow, just because he's been pointless in 4 straight. Everybody's dropping him all over the place. He's only 22% rostered on Yahoo, which is going to change because I wrote about him for Yahoo article coming tomorrow. So those articles seem to be bumping up the Yahoo numbers a fair bit.
Were you promoting him, or were you dumping?
I was promoting him. So
bang! There we go.
I think he'll get a bump this week. Sweet. Minnesota has a great schedule this week: 4 games, 3 off nights. So he is gonna get bumped up. I do believe that for sure. But this is one of these guys, right? He doesn't shoot much. He doesn't hit much. He doesn't block He's only getting 18 minutes average time on ice. 15 50% IPP and a 9.7% on ice shooting percentage. Neither of those numbers really scare me too much. The IPP will probably come down a little bit over the course of a full season. But once again, I've said this a million times at this point, but this is a John Klingberg, Torrey Krug kind of mold player where the points are going to come in bunches. And when he's not scoring points, you're going to feel like, why is this guy on my roster? And when the points are coming, you're like, this guy's the greatest thing ever. And I do think like the Minnesota Wild, they have a good power play there. They have three terrific players in Kaprizov, Zuccarello, and Boldy. And Joel Eriksson Ek has really been solid in his kind of net front role on that power play. I'd like to see them use Addison more as a point shot. I think that would obviously help his numbers out a little more. I don't know if they're going to do that or if they're going to continue to kind of funnel the power play through other means. But regardless, I do think that Addison is a guy to hang on to. If he hangs on to the top power play for the entirety of the season, I just don't see a possibility that he's below 45 points on the season. And the ceiling, if he, gets more time on ice, at even strength, I'm saying, and gets up into like a 20-21 minute range, then you're talking about a guy who could go to like 55 points and could be like an absolute league winner almost for you defense. So that's how I feel about Calen Addison. How are we feeling about Calen Addison, Blake?
I'm with you. Yeah, this is a great week to go out and get Calen Addison. He's available. And yeah, you're at the very least, you're probably getting some assists, some power play points. You're definitely not getting any hits. 3 hits in 11 games. Yeah. What the hell? How do you do that? You have to actively avoid people. That seems intentional to me. But yeah, I mean, he's a rookie. He's going to go up and down. But I think, yeah, this week you got to do it. He's like a young Tony DeAngelo. All right. Give this kid some more minutes. I just take every chance I can to see Tony DeAngelo because I enjoy that. All right. And you could use too. Calen Addison can become Tony DeAngelo. All right. In a few years.
All right, let's keep it rolling. Do another defenseman here. Back to Calgary with Mackenzie Weegar. Only 1 assist in his last 7 games. The time on ice is down from his Florida numbers, which was something I didn't really expect. He's down to 21 minutes, 35 seconds average time on ice. He was at 23-22 last year in Florida. So almost 2 full minutes down in average time on ice. 4.7 shots per 60, down from 6.5 in Florida, so that's down as well, not shooting as much. Now, there is some positive regression coming his way, just a 6.8% on-ice shooting percentage. He averaged above 10% his last 3 seasons in Florida. You can, regress that a little bit. Maybe it's at more like a 9% in Calgary or something like that, but definitely he's still well below that for his on-ice shooting percentage right now. His on-ice numbers, in terms of how the team's performing with him on the ice, are good, not great, I would say. Like, he's definitely not up among the elite as he was with Florida. So that's concerning a little bit. Maybe I was too bullish on Weegar. I had a pretty big projection on him. I ended up with him in a couple of places because of that projection. I did think there's a pretty solid chance that he would overtake Rasmus Andersson for the top power play. And I still think that's a possibility. Anderson kind of came out hot and has cooled off a little bit. So there is that possibility, but definitely it's not looking like a probability at this point. Where are you at with Weegar? Are you thinking about dropping him? Would you be thinking about selling him low? Are you going out to acquire him? What are you doing with Weegar?
Yeah, it's tough because I listened to a lot you talk about Weegar, but I also had my own thoughts on Mackenzie Weegar, and I did pick him up in a bunch of spots. So I'm just hanging on right now. Definitely not a drop. I mean, he's going to give you those peripherals, right? So depending on the format of your league, you're still getting something. But yeah, I seeing that Rasmus Andersson at the beginning of the year was going to be power play 1, that was a little bit disheartening, and we knew that when we drafted Weegar. Right. I think we all thought he was going to overtake it. And yeah, I'm not sure if that's going to happen. They do have just great defensemen in Calgary. That's something they've always had. And you throw him into the mix. It's like, you got about a bunch of roosters in the henhouse. Right. And you can see 2 minutes off his average ice time as last year. I didn't see that coming either. I thought they were going to just ride this guy because he's a beast. He can do it all. He doesn't have to be your offensive defenseman. I thought he was going to be on the ice a lot more though. So I don't know. I think, there's something we have Huberdeau and Weegar. Maybe it's, I think Sutter to me seems like kind of an old school kind of coach, and I wonder what it's like. I'm just extrapolating or guessing, but I wonder what it's like coming to a new team with that guy as your coach and kind of just trying to get comfortable. And I don't know, but I think they're both having off season so far, which is not really what I expected. So you're definitely hanging on to Uyghur. Don't drop him. But yeah, it's not going the way we want.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm about the same. I'm hanging on to him where I've got him. Like you said, he's still providing those peripherals. If it's bangers cats, then you can hang on to him forever just based on what he offers you there. But yeah, it is concerning. I would say that the underlying numbers are not coming back up. And we see with Huberto that Huberto's kind of been able to sustain those underlying numbers, whereas Uyghur hasn't. So that's kind of two guys coming from the same situation to the same new situation, and one's outperforming each other in the underlying stats. So that's a little bit concerning with Uyghur as well. All right, let's end it off here with Thomas Shabbat, another guy pointless in his last 4 games. The IPP here is just absolutely in the gutter, 28%. Like, this should be above 40% for Shabbat pretty comfortably. So definitely just some luck going against him in that front. On ice shooting percentage is fine. It's really just that share, that IPP number, that is the issue with his points. Shot rates are fine. On ice numbers are much improved, as kind of everyone expected, given the injection of offensive talent in Ottawa. He's actually top 10 amongst all D in on ice scoring chances for per 60 at this point. So Shabbat definitely on the ice for lots of scoring chances. The IPP, even if he's gonna be like a 35% IPP guy at this point, like, it's gonna come up from where it is, and it's gonna come up fairly significantly. So I'm not panicking on Shabbat by any means. I will say, like, I think there's a little bit of a I don't know, people have this idea of Shabbat being like an elite level offensive defenseman, and his rate stats really don't bear that out. It's always kind of been more the fact that he was skating like 27, 28 minutes a night in Ottawa. He still is for the most part,
Yep.
but he's always been a little bit more of a volume guy than an efficiency guy. So that kind of scares me a little bit with Shabbat every year, is that, what if this is the year where they decide, maybe we don't need to run Shabbat straight into the ground every single game. So there is that in the back of my mind always with Shabbat. But in terms of what Ottawa is putting out in terms of offensive output, definitely he's going to get his share of that. And I'm not concerned about him long term, as like what you drafted him for, you're going to get out of Shabbat, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a great way to put that. Yeah, I like what you said there. I think when Erik Karlsson left, they were looking for who's going to take over his minutes, his spot, and Shabbat came in and had a good season and did some good things. And I remember reading something even back then, like, oh, Eric, we don't even miss Karlsson. We got this guy, right? Yeah. But yeah, like you said, when you're getting that kind of volume on ice, like his minutes have been insane over the years. Just how much he's on the ice. So of course he's going to get some counting stats there. But I do think you're totally bang on when you say, like, they're kind of making him like an offensive player when maybe that's not who he is, like, or we're trying to do it mentally, like kind of putting a square peg into a round hole, like, I think he is who he is, like who you drafted. That's probably, where you drafted him. That's who you're going to get. You're going to get a 45-point defenseman, probably, with some decent power play numbers. I don't know. I'm not, I wasn't too big on Shabbat this year. I like the Senators, but there's just too many new players there. And again, too many good offensive players. They all need their minutes, and everyone's got to build some chemistry and quickly. And yeah. And then you got Jake Sanderson too, coming up and kind of, he's like the hot new thing there in Ottawa, and he looks good too. So I don't know, all these things together. I'm not, Shabbat is what he is. I think there's better guys out there. And I sort of stayed away from him this year. I wasn't too interested. So
yeah.
Sorry, Thomas Shabbat.
Yeah. Yeah, I did too. There was just kind of always one more guy that I was interested in before my pick, and he always went off a little bit before I wanted to. Yeah, I think rest of season, I think I'd probably comfortably put him at a 55-point pace, maybe 60 if, the variance goes his way in the second half. That's definitely possible. Looks like Ottawa is going to put up those those shot rates that we were all hoping for when we saw the top 6 they were assembling. So that part seems to be coming true, and Shabbat should get, his fair share of that as well. So 55 to 60 points, assuming he keeps that top power play for the whole season. I think that's a fair projection at this point, but definitely I don't see much upside beyond that with Shabbat.
Book it.
All right, buddy. Anything from your side that you wanted to touch on before we get out of here?
I just wanted to touch on briefly Jamie Benn. What is that man doing?
That is true. We should talk about Jamie
what in the
Benn.
hell? Yeah, like, do we need to pick this man up? Because he's not really on the ice very much, but when he is, he likes to score and get assists.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Jamie Benn, I'm just going through his game log right here. So I'm going back, what is this, 6 games? The last 6 games, the man has not played more than 14 minutes and 38 seconds in any one of those games. But in the last 3 games in particular, they've all been multi-point outings. He's shot at least 4 times in all 3 of those outings. He had the hat trick last night against Edmonton, and that came in just 12 minutes and 55 seconds of ice time. So, yeah, Jamie Benn absolutely shooting up, 31% rostered right now.
That's high. 31, that's a surprise, actually.
Yeah, plus 8% the last day is what Yahoo's telling me right now. So definitely he's on his way up. So if you want to get him, you're going to have to get him pretty soon. Dallas has a decent schedule for next week. They play on Tuesday, which is a heavy night, but then they've got the Friday, Sunday off nights. So there's definitely a solid chance to work him into your lineups. If you can fit him for the Tuesday, then you've got him for the 2 off nights later on in the week as well. And then you can just kind of see where it goes. Definitely, I think he's being a little too efficient, but that top power play is no joke in Dallas either. So, and the shot totals are really nice the last 3 games as well. So, hey, I'm not here to bet against Jamie Benn, all right? I don't know if you saw that clip going around of him playing with Zach Hyman and slashing the stick out of his
Oh,
hand
yeah. I was going to say that to you.
head.
That was so weird. He's like, had his arm around him like they're buddies. This he seems like a beauty, Jamie Benn. He seems like a character. Probably a guy you don't want to piss off either. So
yeah, definitely not someone I'd want to piss off.
Way to go, Jamie Benn. Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, I'm down for it for a week at least. This week, you can definitely fit him into your lineup, see how it goes, and maybe there's a chance too he parlays this hot stretch into even more ice time. Works his way back up the lineup a little bit. I'm not against it. How about you? Are you gonna pick him up?
No, I can't do it. I can't do it. When I see those minutes, that's where I'm just like, no. Like, there's lots of guys, or there are a few guys that do this kind of stuff in those minutes, but it never lasts. You need to be on the ice. It doesn't, hat trick though. What the hell? And one of them was like a sick snipe, like 2-on-1, just ridiculous. Like, who is this guy? But and I'm happy for him. But I mean, he's a third liner on Dallas, and he's getting some stuff done on the power play. So that's going to dry up. There's no way. I mean, this week, like you said, there are three games with 2 off nights. Go pick up Mason Marchment. All right, that's who you need to be getting instead of Jamie Benn. I don't know. Just enjoy it. If you did pick him up, like, hopefully he does well. 12 minutes though, or 13 minutes. Come on.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That's light for sure. The one thing that does give me pause is like they've won all 3 of those games pretty convincingly. They scored 5, 7, and 6 goals in those 3 games that he scored those big point totals in. So he's getting his share of that, but obviously they're winning the way that they're playing, so he's not going to get more deployment most likely. I'm comfortable, like I said, grabbing him to ride the hot streak, ride the bull for a little while. I would take him over Mason Marchment personally at the moment.
Oh my!
Marchment has really cooled off the last little bit in terms of the underlying stats, so that's why I'm a little bit cooler on Marchment right now. I view both these guys as kind of a stream, so I'll just kind of default to the one who's really hot right now and hope that he gets enough minutes to be relevant for the 1 week that I'm going to pick him up for. Okay. So.
He's an Apples and Geno's darling right now. Jamie Benn, the Apples and Geno's, promoted, confirmed. All right.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
That's right. No, I'm reading between the lines. Okay. All right. Jamie Benn for the rest of the season. There we go.
Yeah, before we do get out of here, we got one question coming in from David. He's asking about Kirby Doc, and I have gotten some questions about Doc, so I should take the time and answer them on the mic here. Yeah, the last 4 games, he's got points in each of them, and he's played over 16 minutes in each of those games, including 3 assists the other night against Vegas. So that's pretty exciting in terms of just the point totals, right? Do you have any big takes on Kirby Doc, Blake?
I was more aware of him when he was with the Blackhawks. I've only seen some highlights, but I'm happy he's doing well. But again, it's just the minutes. Like, when he was playing in Chicago, he was getting sometimes 20 minutes a night, whereas it hasn't really materialized that way. But I mean, he's on the top line with Caulfield and Suzuki. Like, hello, that's those guys are doing very well to start the season. So, I mean, he's worth a flyer for sure. And then, I mean, is he getting power play too? Yeah, he's getting power play 1. So,
yeah,
you could do a lot worse, especially when they have a good schedule. That guy should be on a roster ASAP. What's he rostered right now?
Right now, Kirby Doc is sitting at 13% rostered. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about Doc. Definitely, I don't see myself picking him up for this week. 3 games with only the 1 off night, so that's not that's not super inspiring just in terms of the schedule. And he's definitely still at a streamer level at this point. It's not like these 4 games have suddenly completely altered my my perception of who Doc is and what we should expect from him moving forward. I will say that it is like the deployment is really what's catching my eye, right? So playing with Suzuki and Caulfield, who are pretty much the only, I would say, legitimate offensive threats on Montreal at this point, that's where you want to be. But when I look at his advanced stats, definitely the Corsi 4 is up from his time in Chicago, and you'd expect it to be playing with 2 guys like Suzuki and Caulfield who've been producing offensively. So definitely, as long as he remains there, I think he's streamable. But in terms of his individual stats, I don't see a big tick up in terms of the shots per 60 or the individual scoring chances for. So really, to me, he's just a streamer still at this point. And the streaming schedule isn't that good this week, so I personally won't be taking the dive on Kirby Doc this week.
No, he's a watch list guy for sure.
Yep. All right, folks, that's all we've got for this episode. Hopefully it brought you some value. Get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, a terrific free resource. Go check that out. Many thanks as well to the band There for supplying the music for the podcast. Be sure to check them out on Spotify. And that's going to be it, folks. Much love.
See you later, everybody.